Hey everyone, Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business. Today I want to talk to you guys about the Bitcoin halving. According to my phone here on Blockfolio, the Bitcoin halving is about to happen in 45 minutes. So when I post this, obviously it will have already have happened. So any speculations I make now are, they're not going to be relevant by the time I post this. Maybe they will, because I don't actually think we'll see the drastic change that people thought or might have expected. What's interesting to me is that Bitcoin actually dropped a lot in the last few days. So I think there's a lot of people who are trying to bring the price down so that they can buy in a bunch just before the halving. And, there's people who've talked maybe it's already priced in. I just think there's going to be a lot of volatility, and we're not going to really see anything crazy for a bit of time, right? It might go up a bit. It might not have a huge change in the next couple weeks, but the first halving, or rather the halving 8 years ago, it took about a year or so before it actually reached its peak. And the second halving, I think it took around 500 days, maybe more, to reach its peak. So, we could be waiting 2 years to see the next peak. So I don't think people should get crazy. I do think this is a good time to get in because the price just dropped like $1,500. If you're going to get in, it's probably the time. I mean, again, this could be drastically different by the time I posted this, and this is not financial advice. So still do your own research, come to your own conclusions. But the Bitcoin halving, people who are actually here to listen about what the Bitcoin halving actually is, if they're not aware and you haven't heard all the news, this is definitely the most focused on Bitcoin halving. This is the most mainstream. This is the most searched for. So way more people know about it than they did previously, but previously barely anyone knew about it, right? The amount that people know now is probably still a tiny, tiny fraction of the actual cryptocurrency space. And I think anyone outside of the space who knows anything about the halving is just hearsay from people that do know, and now they might come on to try to take advantage of that. And that's totally reasonable. We're going to look up Google search statistics to take a look at people actually searching Bitcoin and people actually searching the Bitcoin halving. And sorry, not just Google search, but Google Trends. And I'm going to share my screen for this because this is pretty important. So if we look at Bitcoin, and the most important thing is to compare it to previous halvings to get a good idea of what's going on. So if we look at Bitcoin and we say worldwide searches, right? It's not super, super up right now. It's still pretty similar to what it's been in the past. And if we look at the past 5 years, you can see obviously where the last halving was. And it went up significantly, right? Comparatively, it is just way, 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 way up. But now if we look at the Bitcoin halving, so the previous halving, this was the awareness here, right? This was the awareness, a 6. Today, the awareness is a 55, and it's projected to just skyrocket. So absolutely people are more aware of the halving. While there might not be more people necessarily searching for Bitcoin as there was previously, everyone is aware of this event right now, or at least tenfold of what they used to in 2018 or 2016, I guess. But just anytime. I mean, if you compare to just average, it's ridiculously higher. But if you look at the last peak, we are way, way, way above that, more than triple. So you guys got to consider this, right? This means that everyone, well, not everyone, but so many more people are aware of this event, that there's so many more eyes on this event. There's so many more investors around this event. There's going to be so much more volume around this event. Even though now Bitcoin is lower than it was, last week, it's just happening now. And it took over 500 days, somewhere around there, for the previous one. So, again, we could see this take 2 years again. We don't know where the peak is, obviously. You're going to have to guess that yourself if you decide to sell. But we do know that more people are paying attention to this specific event. And I don't think Bitcoin search terms are going to go up until after the halving. Because this is what happens, right? People who are aware of the halving get all the buzz going. We invest. We do all this stuff because we know what's about to happen. And then the market catches up, right? They start to see, oh, wow, Bitcoin's going up. Way more articles start getting written. And naturally, we will see this Bitcoin searches go way, way up because all the articles, people checking in, we're going to see this go up somewhat similarly to the way that the halving searches are going up. And this is a good indicator, right? You can use Bitcoin search and Bitcoin halving as really good indicators for where the price might go and if people are going to be bearish or bullish on Bitcoin. Again, this is not financial advice and I don't have any price predictions for you. I am very confident that Bitcoin will go up. Again, if you actually don't know what the Bitcoin halving is, since I keep bringing that up but not actually explaining it to you guys, what the Bitcoin halving is the inflation rate of Bitcoin is going to be halved. And you can see here that every 4 years it is halved. And what that means is that every 4 years, Bitcoin becomes a better store of value because it's new Bitcoin is being created at a much slower rate, half. And it's the opposite of money, right? This is deflationary. Well, no, it's not deflationary. Sorry. It has a limited, supply and it's scarce. It's not deflationary because they're not like burning it. But the inflation rate is always going down. So while this is an inflating currency, it will only inflate to a certain amount and the inflation will go down every 4 years. If you look at US dollar or Canadian dollar, for example, from 1913 to 2013, the US dollar lost 95% of its value due to inflation every year. When we look at Bitcoin, it's gained value in the long term. If you're looking at like the 3 year, the 4 year, the 5 year, it's gained value. It's been up and down. There's been a lot of craziness, but it's gained value in the long term, and it's likely going to continue gaining value. You can see here what the monetary projection is, though, right? As the inflation becomes less and less, there should be less volatility in the price, and it eventually should be very stable in the future. But we're about like right here. So there's still a lot of growth to be had. And again, every year or every 4 years when the Bitcoin halving happens and the inflation rate is halved, that just makes it significantly more valuable. And this is easy to tell, right? Because this is the same with any currency. If right now the US or Canada halved its inflation, that would improve the value of the dollar. The problem and why they don't do this is because they need to print new money to stimulate the economy and to do all the things that they need to do inherently. And because there's no cap or there's no max supply, inherently fiat currency is trending towards $0 of value. Again, the US dollar lost 95% of its value in just 100 years. Most currencies tend to not last beyond 200 or 300 years, I believe. It's something like that. The only thing that has lasted for a very long time is gold. And Bitcoin has the same features and factors that make gold value with scarcity. You can't counterfeit it very easily. With Bitcoin, you can't counterfeit it at all. Really, Bitcoin actually took a lot of the things that make gold valuable and they made them even stronger. Aside from the fact that you can't have the physical asset, which is like one of the biggest complaints when people compare gold to Bitcoin, Bitcoin is, you're able to store it more securely, right? Because I could store it on an offline wallet. No one can hack it from the internet. And if someone got the wallet, they still wouldn't have it. But if someone got the gold is now theirs. No matter where Bitcoin is made, it's valued at the same price. And there's so many different things that make it very similar to gold, but they build upon that. And you can look at many of my other videos that dive into this. I've done a lot. There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin to ever exist. I'll link this website here, and you can actually see a lot of different stats about Bitcoin. Another really useful thing about Bitcoin is you can see exactly how much is in circulation, how much was in circulation yesterday, how much will be in circulation projected tomorrow. The reason that that's so valuable is because we have no idea how much US dollars are in circulation. We have no idea how much was printed yesterday. We have no idea how much is printed tomorrow, and we'll have no idea what will be printed in a month or what was printed last month. Or how much of it is counterfeit, or how much of it was destroyed. We know all of that for crypto, right? It's all on the blockchain and anyone can verify it. The access, the transparency, and at the same time, the privacy and all the other benefits that you get with Bitcoin, you don't really get with any other kind of cryptocurrency, or well, you get with most cryptocurrencies, but you don't get it with regular fiat currency. And I've spoken on this before. The reason that a lot of people are hesitant to invest in Bitcoin isn't because they don't understand blockchain. It's because they don't have a full understanding of fiat currency and why fiat currency isn't very valuable, right? Most people don't really have that full 360-degree view that 95% of the US dollar has been lost in the past 100 years. That should set off alarm bells, right? That means that the only thing that you have to be sure of is that your money will be worth less next year. That's the only thing that you can be sure of. At a slow rate, mind you. But people will say, Bitcoin's volatile. I could lose money. You could lose money. With fiat currency, you will lose money. That's the big differentiation. Are you willing to take some risk to potentially have some gain? Or you could say, I don't want to deal with risk, but I'm not going to have any gain. I'm just going to slowly lose wealth. And that's not sustainable. And it won't last. That's partially why there are these new solutions to solve these problems, because we don't know when the inevitable downfall of the regular fiat dollar will happen. But we do have solutions for people to take advantage of. So Bitcoin is just one of many cryptocurrencies. And the way that its inflation is going to impact the blockchain is miners, people who are mining the Bitcoin. And if you're not familiar with mining is essentially their computers are just doing a bunch of complicated tasks to prove that they've done some sort of effort, just to make some sort of difficulty requirement, which becomes more challenging over time. The idea is that Bitcoin should be difficult to acquire, and it should become more difficult to acquire as time goes on, thus also improving the value. And the inflation halving is essentially the miners were getting 12.5 Bitcoins when they mined a block, which is just a certain amount mined that they will then get the reward for. That reward is going to be halved. So the inflation rate is really for the people mining the coins. But what that means is, because the miners are getting half as much, some miners may stop mining because it won't be feasible, while others will try to drive up the price, because naturally, if they were going to be able to recoup their losses, they have to now sell at double the price, or they have to find some way to push the price up for it to be viable for them to continue mining. Otherwise, mining would not be financially feasible. So almost inevitably, we should see an increase, because the miners have to recoup their losses. Like, they can't just continually get less money every 4 years and still be sustainable. So if you have faith in Bitcoin continuing to be sustainable and for miners to continue mining, there's going to be an increase in value. There has to be, for it to work properly. In my opinion, I mean, I could be wrong. Miners could just take the hit, and for all we know, the price could go down or stay the same. But if we look at the past, if we look at the way that this currency has been hard-coded, everything is coded in. The good thing about Bitcoin is that it's not my opinion that this is going to happen. It's not my opinion that the inflation rate is going to change. It's not my opinion when this is going to happen. This is going to happen. It's hard-coded in. The good thing about Bitcoin and most cryptocurrencies is you don't have to trust what I'm saying to you. You don't have to trust what any news outlet says. You don't have to trust any of that information, because the only thing you have to trust is the code. And the code relies on no one, because it was already written. It's already done. We don't have to trust a person or someone changing something. You can just look at the code. And while most people aren't actually going to look through the code, the general understanding of the code is that it's not going to change, and all of this stuff has already been hard coded in and set up, right? We already know when the last Bitcoin will be mined. I think it's 2141, something like that. It's somewhere in this information, but you got to keep that in mind, because there is no other regular, like gold or any other currency. There's no way to know verifiably how much there is, when there'll be a certain amount, when they will stop. People say stuff like, well, what if one day we came upon a planet that was all made of gold? And I've addressed this in the past and said, I mean, realistically, I don't know how much that would change the price of gold, because if we were using trillions of dollars to transport gold across the galaxy or the universe, how reasonable would that really be to use our most advanced technology of the human race to get more gold on Earth? I think that would be a frivolous use of our resources, and I feel like that's not what we would be concerned with. But people come up with these weird hypotheticals that are just unrealistic and probably won't even happen in your lifetime, to say, well, that's why I wouldn't invest in gold. Well, even if you try to apply that, there's no Bitcoin planet that we might find. There will only ever be 21 million. So again, taking aspects from gold and other powerful, long-lasting, gold is the longest-lasting currency, and applying that to a digital cryptocurrency, and then building upon that and making it even stronger. And that's what we have with Bitcoin. A lot of people say, but where is the actual value if it's just being created out of nothing? It's created out of the difficulty. The value is brought out of its scarcity. The value is created out of the energy used. So many different things go into the value. And at the end of the day, people who don't understand the value I feel, have a lack of understanding of fiat currency, because where is the value for fiat currency, right? We've been off the gold standard for so long. Where is the intrinsic value? There isn't any. Money is a unit of measurement of wealth. For example, the way that Alan Watts describes the Great Depression, he says, we know money is a measurement of wealth and a unit, because in the Great Depression, we had no less lumber, no less steel, no less of any resource that has value. But for some reason, we didn't have value. It was like you went to build a house and for some reason they said, sorry, we don't have any inches on our tape measures. I mean, we have tape measures, we have inches of lumber, but there's no inches. Inches are just the measurement. As money is a measurement of wealth. It isn't the wealth itself. The gold was. The money was the measurement. Now people view the money as the wealth. And that's where we've tricked ourselves. And then we think that the money is the only thing that is wealth, even though it's losing value every year. Gold is gaining value most of the time, like in the long run. Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies typically gaining value. Fiat currency across the board is always down trending to zero. You can improve this with inflation rates and different monetary policies, but for the most part, all fiat currencies are trending towards zero if they have any inflation. That's how it has to be. So, what do we do now? Well, we've also got quantitative easing happening with Bitcoin. With fiat currency in the States and in Canada. They're injecting money into the economy to try to stimulate it, but no one's actually buying things. No one's going out. So that's not really going to do anything. It's probably just going to bring up the inflation rate, quantitative easing. So I made a video recently saying how Bitcoin was actually going to benefit from this because now the inflation rate for regular fiat is going down even faster than it was, or it's going up rather, and the value is going down faster than it was before. Bitcoin is now going up in value faster than it was, or rather it's inflating less than it was before, which naturally helps it go up in value faster. So let me know what you guys think about this, because I think this is really, really important. And a lot of the misunderstandings are really, and I'm not trying to like knock people for like not understanding fiat currency. Most people don't even know what I mean when I say fiat. Fiat currency, I probably should have said this earlier. Fiat currency are regular country sovereign currencies like Canadian dollars or United States US dollars, right? Fiat currency is always inflationary. It's always going down in value. Bitcoin is not, and that's what makes it so important. Check out all of my other videos on this. I've made like 3 or 4 on the halving and why this is going to be so important. Again, this is not financial advice, but definitely check this out. Now is the time, given the price hasn't gone crazy, to take advantage, especially since it dropped recently. They're really giving you guys an opportunity to get in. So let me know what you're doing. What do you think about Bitcoin? Are you bullish on Bitcoin? Are you bullish on anything else? One thing to note is that when Bitcoin goes up, it typically raises the tides for everything. So I've told most of my friends that if you invest in anything at this point, you're probably going to make money. But again, not financial advice. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And thanks so much for watching to the end. Make sure to comment #1ham in the comments. Thanks for sticking around. Since you did, please give this video a like. And if you'd like to see more, make sure to subscribe. You can also support me by donating to the addresses below. If you're using an Ethereum wallet, you can send to scottcbusiness.eth. If you're using another wallet like Coinami, Trust Wallet, Atomic Wallet, you can send to scottcbusiness.crypto. On both wallets, I accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Ripple. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, signing off. Cheers.